program is the Active Center.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a genuinely fascinating financial mystery. It's a story all about civic pride, professional baseball, and a decades-long public-private partnership that might just be one of the most one-sided economic relationships in sports history. We're talking about the City of Anaheim and the Los Angeles Angels. Now, on the surface, hosting a Major League Baseball team seems like a massive financial win for any city, right? But when we actually open up the books and look at the hard data, a completely different and frankly shocking picture emerges.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the heart of this entire mystery really boils down to one absolutely staggering number: $415,000. According to a recent audit from the California State Auditor, that is the total net revenue the City of Anaheim has made from the Angels over nearly 3 decades. And just to be clear, that's not per year. That is the total, over almost 30 years of hosting a professional baseball team.
And that right there brilliantly illustrates the sheer imbalance of this partnership. I mean, on one hand, you have Major League Baseball scale revenue. We're talking about a major public attraction that generates millions upon millions of dollars in ticket sales, merchandise, and related revenue every single season. But on the other hand, Anaheim's net revenue is that tiny $415,000 cut. The team is pulling in millions, while the host city's public coffers are seeing, well, virtually none of it.
So that brings us to a pretty obvious question. How does a city make almost nothing from a major sports team? Seriously, how is that mathematically possible when you've got 40,000 fans buying hot dogs, parking cars, and grabbing jerseys 81 times a year? Well, to figure out how Anaheim got trapped in this financial dynamic, we have to perform a bit of a financial autopsy, spanning several decades.
Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds. To understand the trap, we really have to look back at how we got here. The story kicks off in the mid-1960s with team founder Gene Autry. Anaheim was this growing city, super eager to secure a major league identity. So they offered up a publicly funded, state-of-the-art stadium. Then, jumped to 1980, they expanded it for the Los Angeles Rams football team. By 1995, the Rams bounced for St. Louis, and right after that, the Walt Disney Company bought the baseball team and renovated the stadium all over again. It's basically a revolving door of tenants and corporate eras, but with one major constant: the city footing the bill.
So let's look at the foundation of that bill. $24 million. That was the initial cost to build the stadium back in 1966. Acting completely alone after other county entities passed on helping out, the City of Anaheim financed this whole thing through municipal bonds. This was the city's very first major sunk cost in what will become a decades-long tradition. In exchange for bringing the team to town, the city took on the financial burden and risk of stadium ownership, while the team kept the vast majority of the game day revenue. The die was kind of cast right from the jump.
Then came the football era. To accommodate the NFL's Los Angeles Rams in 1980, Anaheim financed a massive multi-million-dollar expansion, literally enclosing the structure to cram in more seating. But by the mid-90s, the Rams owner, Georgia Frontier, wanted a new, more profitable deal. Anaheim was in an economic recession at the time and just couldn't pay for the shiny new improvements she demanded. So St. Louis swooped in with a publicly funded domed stadium. When the Rams left in '95, St. Louis actually agreed to pay off the Rams' $30 million debt to Anaheim. But that still left the city stuck with a massive, modified, and completely empty 65,000-seat paperweight.
Then, enter the Walt Disney Company. In 1996, Disney bought the team and poured $100 million into a massive renovation managed by Disney Imagineering. They ripped out that old football seating, restored the views of the local mountains, and added that iconic California spectacular rock formation out in center field. But despite modernizing the ballpark, Disney faced a lot of pressure from shareholders because the team just wasn't consistently turning a profit. So, in 2003, they sold the team to Art Moreno to refocus on their core entertainment business. But here's the kicker. While ownership changed, the city's underlying financial obligations absolutely did not.
In fact, the city's sunk costs just kept compounding over time. Historically, Anaheim returned— Actually, let me rephrase that. They gave back a massive $76 million prepaid rent payment to the Angels. On top of that, they provided an additional $20 million for renovations. Plus, while the team handles the day-to-day maintenance, the city is still on the hook to fund the capital reserve for major repairs. We are talking about nearly $100 million in historical investments and returned funds that have generated virtually zero return for the city.
Now, what's really interesting about this current lease is how it's structured.
This is exactly why that $415,000 number from the beginning exists. The lease only provides the city with revenue under incredibly specific, astronomically high threshold conditions. The vast majority of the time, the triggers for the city to actually get paid are simply never reached, which means the team keeps the lion's share of the stadium's economic activity.
For example, check out this attendance threshold, 2.6 million. The City of Anaheim receives exactly $2 per ticket sold, but only for attendance that pushes past 2.6 million fans in a single season. Anything under that, the city gets zilch from ticket sales. And the city's share of parking and other event revenue operates the exact same way. It's only triggered after the team surpasses multi-million-dollar thresholds.
And then you have this stark reality: absolutely zero revenue for the city from merchandise and concessions. Every hot dog, every beer, every foam finger, every jersey sold inside that stadium, the revenue stays entirely with the team. The city gets absolutely nothing from these incredibly lucrative game day sales. Not a dime.
Now you might be wondering, well, what about sales tax? Fans are buying all that stuff, so the city must be making a killing there, right? Well, the combined sales tax rate in Anaheim is 8.75%, but the city's actual slice is a tiny, fixed 1.5%. That small percentage is what actually goes to fund Anaheim's public safety and infrastructure. The massive remaining 7.25% goes straight to the state and the county. To put all of these restricted revenue streams into perspective, let's look at a recent snapshot. For the 12 months ending in June 2024, the city's overall revenue from tickets, parking, and other stadium events, and yes, that includes their portion of the sales tax, totaled just $1.4 million. When you compare $1.4 million to the scale of a Major League Baseball franchise, the disadvantage to the local taxpayers is glaringly obvious. So, this severe financial reality naturally leads us to ask, how does a city escape a bad lease? When you're a municipality bleeding money or missing out on massive opportunity costs because of a decades-old agreement, how do you finally hit the reset button? Well, in 2020, Anaheim tried to do exactly that.
So the crucial point is that in 2020, Anaheim crafted a wildly comprehensive escape plan. The idea was to sell the stadium and the 153 acres of surrounding land, which is mostly just used for parking right now, directly to Arte Moreno's company. The land was appraised at $500 million. After deductions, Anaheim expected to net $320 million in cold, hard cash. Even better, it would transfer all future responsibility for stadium maintenance and repairs entirely over to the developer. Moreno's group planned to build thousands of residential units and commercial spaces, which would create this massive new property and sales tax base for Anaheim. It was designed to be the definitive solution. But that definitive solution completely collapsed. In 2022, a federal corruption investigation into the negotiation process exposed allegations of improper conduct. The facts here are straightforward. The probe ultimately led to the resignation of Anaheim's mayor, and the entire land sale arrangement was unequivocally canceled. The city's bold escape plan was completely torpedoed.
Which brings us to the current, incredibly frustrating holding pattern. The Angels have extended their lease through 2032, with options for even more extensions. Anaheim is still on the hook for those capital reserves and bears the financial risks of stadium ownership. And the economic reality? Well, as long as this current structure remains in place, it continues to be a net financial loss for Anaheim's taxpayers. The underlying dynamic just hasn't changed.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really vital question to consider. What is the true cost of civic pride in public-private sports partnerships? Anaheim wanted a major league identity, and they definitely got one. But as the data clearly shows, owning a stadium while bearing the financial risks, without a comparable share of the rewards, has left the city economically disadvantaged for decades. It's a powerful reminder that when cities negotiate with professional sports teams, the price of putting a city's name on a jersey can be infinitely higher than anyone initially realizes. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. I hope it gave you a clear picture of the complex financial reality behind the ballpark.